Hello, and welcome to the Side Netting Podcast, the place where we talk all the latest goings on in the world of football, play a couple of games, and almost definitely go off on a tangent or two. I'm Connor Burke, and I'm joined, as always, by my friend, my cousin, but most importantly, my co-host, Kieran Burke. Kieran, how are we getting on?
We're getting on very well for the old spooky special this week. Exciting time.
Yeah, the Scythe Netting Podcast. I don't actually know how to say it. Is Scythe? I think it's Scythe or Scythe, or it's the big like Grim Reaper.
The big Grim Reaper sword.
Yeah, the curvy sword on the stick thing. I think it's Scythe, but we'll land on Scythe. We'll go with that.
We'll go with it.
Yeah. So Halloween season coming up. To really go for an absolutely horrendous cliche, not even a pun, is it? But who will have a scary weekend? Kieran, let's get into the predictions straight off the bat. Last weekend, you won 6-5 just because you got that Aston Villa win correct. I went the wrong way on that one. That was the difference maker on that. So let's go straight into it. First game, we have Arsenal against Sheffield United. We should be winning this game, Kears, but it is Arsenal at home, and it's Arsenal against a bottom tier team. So the fear is always going to be in there.
The fear's there. I'm going 3-1 Arsenal in this one. Everyone knows we can't keep a clean sheet at home. So Sheffield United are bound to score one. And they've done that quite a lot recently. They've sort of lost games narrowly, your 2-1s, your 3-1s. So I think we'll win comfortably enough. Knowing Arsenal, we're bound to have a bit of a worry in there, bit of a fright. It will definitely not be plain sailing, but
bit of a fright.
Well, there we go. I didn't even do that intentionally as well. There you go. But yeah, I think we should have too much quality for them. So 3-1 Arsenal for me.
Yeah, coming off quite a poor performance against Chelsea last weekend, which I'm still completely baffled as to how we got out of that game with any points. Really speaks a lot to Chelsea's mentality, that game, more so than Arsenal's, I think, because as soon as we got our dodgy goal from Rice, thank you, Robert Sanchez, they just completely crumbled there, and really we could have gone to win a game we had no right of even getting a goal in. But as you say, we're not keeping a clean sheet at home. It's just not meant to. And the way David Raya is playing recently, do you reckon he'll start? I reckon he will.
He will. I think he will. He started in the Champions League this week as well. Obviously, done okay. He still had a few worrying moments. Well,
that punch.
I know, but he was actually getting. I've seen him get quite a lot of praise from that game. Weirdly,
I'll tell you who didn't praise him. Thierry Henry had the old CBS coverage on via very legal means, and he was talking about how to quote Thierry Henry, his heart skipped a beat like a prime Rizzle kicks an Ollie Mers. He didn't say that last bit when that punch happened, and we got away with one there. It was down to the fates where that ball span out. Yeah. But yeah, I don't
want Ramsdale to start, but I just can't see it. Arteta has his favourite.
Yeah,
now.
I don't really understand it because I've not seen anything that has him out and away. I still stick to what I say. I don't think he's I know people are losing their heads, but I don't think he's a bad keeper or even like a worse keeper by much of a stretch. But just at the minute, I do prefer Ramsdale. And if you're going to say, if one of them it doesn't have a great run, I will switch. I'll switch in the 60th minute. Put your money where your mouth is. Yeah. Prove why you brought him in to have an elite number one and an elite number two.
Well, if Ramsdale can't get back in now, when will he get back in? 100%. Because the amount of nervy moments Ray's had, there's just a general unsettled feeling around that back. For centre backs, you want a keeper behind you that makes you feel comfortable. You're comfortable playing back to them, reliable. There's just a general unsettled feeling for me watching Arsenal. Whenever it goes back to Raya now, there's a bit of should we, shouldn't we, play it back. There's just the general, bit of a calamity.
It could be it could be just
so harsh on Ramsdale.
That time of trying to not ease him in, but he has only played 5 games for Arsenal, 4 games for Arsenal, and it does take time to get that rhythm. But that also gives you another reason why Ramsdale should start against the Sheffield United team. We did get unlucky against once again poor Man United team last week, and we'll touch on it in a moment. In fact, let's touch on it now against the poor Man United team. So I've gone 3-1 Arsenal as well, but Man United, they got lucky against Copenhagen in the Champions League this week. They just about beat rock bottom of the table, and now they're going up against a City team who are back up on their horse after a 2-1 win to Brighton. Myself, I don't think it's going to be pretty. I've gone 5-1 Man City.
Okay. Yeah, I think United, the one positive for them is they've managed to scrape these results the past couple of games, which, it's that cliche, good teams grind out results even when they're playing poorly, but it's not a one-off for United this season. I'm not sure there's a game they've not been poor in the whole season, to be honest, which is mad. From memory, recent seasons done quite well v City. United at home as well. I've gone 2-1 Man City. I think it will be a lot closer than perhaps I think it might be. But I do still think City will take it. But I think United, they can put a performance against City. It's kind of like Spurs in recent years always seem to have their good game against Man City, which is a bit strange. So
yeah. The thing with United, it seems to be like one game a season they'll get battered by City, and the other game they'll either give them a good game or beat them. So like just going through their recent record last season, first game of the season they lost 6-3, and then they beat them 2-1 in January. Season before that they lost 4-1 and then 2-0 in a closer game. 2021 they beat them 2-0 and drew 0-0 earlier on in the season. So, like, back and forth. They do have a good recent record against them at Old Trafford, or a solid recent record against them at Old Trafford. What score you gone for, Kiz?
I went 2-1 City. I still think they're legit, but I think they, it's always said, if Derby form goes out the window. I don't think that is the case, but it definitely, on paper, City should win very comfortably, but I just think it'll be closer than perhaps.
For me, it's a terrible United team that don't look like they have any confidence, cohesion, or mentality against a Man City team who, after a tricky couple of games spell, are bouncing back, are going to want to go for it after scraping-ish past Brighton. They were made to worry towards the end after that Fatty goal, and they're going to want a statement. They lost to us, they lost to Wolves, they're going to be looking for a statement. I feel like they're playing a wounded-ish animal, Man United, this weekend, and personally, I don't think it's going to be pretty. Up next, we have our old friends, Kieran, Bournemouth at home against Burnley. Now, have I learned from the last couple of weeks of saying that Bournemouth are going to get a result finally? No, I haven't. I've gone 2-1 Bournemouth.
I've got to mention it as well. I asked you a couple of weeks ago whether it was a must-win game for Bournemouth. Was it Everton? They lost. Last week, is it a must-win v Wolves? Yes, they lost 2-1. How much more time are we giving this man?
It's a must-win against Burnley.
I think this really is a must-win. I've gone 1-1 in this one.
Okay.
I think Bournemouth have just been so poor. I think there's going to be pressure on them now, which even despite recent results, they probably haven't felt as much pressure, I'd say, as on this week now with Burnley. Perhaps it's too early to say it's a 6-pointer, but
it's a big relegation scrap.
It is a big relegation game. To be honest, it's probably it'll probably be a decent game because of how, close a game. And obviously Bournemouth,
the one they've got coming up, Kiz, after this, these 3 games, they were their games to get points. Coming up, they've got City, Newcastle, then a very winnable game against Sheffield United, but we've seen how well they're doing winnable games recently. Then they've got Villa, Palace, Man United.
Tough run. And we said before these 3 games, I think we both said they need to win. They need at least 7 points, I think. Obviously, they're on track for none at the minute. And yeah, I've got a 1-1 draw. Burnley have not done anything special for me this year, but I just can't see either team doing enough to win the game. I think I see it being a 1-1.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. I think Burnley just seem easily. They've got a game plan that just feels like it'll work in the Championship, but they just seem to get easily overwhelmed in the Premier League at the moment. And as we look at those fixtures they've got coming up, there's an international break there off the Newcastle game. I don't think we'll be seeing Iriolo after that.
Oh, he's finally come round.
Well, this is what we've been saying, isn't it? That it was these 3 games, and if he doesn't do well in these 3 games, because we said it in the last international break, it was like there's another international break to come that gives them 2 weeks to refresh, and I think he could be in danger. And I don't think there's any other managers really in danger.
I think perhaps Heckingbottom at
Maybe.
Sheffield United, but I think it was a little bit more expected for Sheffield United to really struggle, which probably buys him a bit more time. Bournemouth, new project, new manager, like exciting football on paper, well, supposedly going to be exciting football. They've not had the results to match that. And to be honest, they've not, from what I've seen of them, admittedly, mainly just through match of the day highlights and stuff, not really watching a full game, they've not looked great. Obviously, we beat them 4-0, I think it was, and they were very poor against us.
Yeah, so we'll see how they get on this weekend. Up next, we have Wolves against Newcastle. Newcastle on a fantastic run after a bit of a sticky start to the season. Yeah. They've been on a great run since the beginning of September, when they lost to Brighton. After that, they've been flat out. And Wolves are on a decent little run themselves. Not lost in a few games, beat City in that time, drew with a very good Villa team in that time, beat a very poor Bournemouth team. Yeah,
up to 12 Wolves. I think they'll be quite happy after bit of a tough start to the season, but they're starting to find their feet. What score have you gone on this one?
I've gone 2-1 Newcastle. Okay. I think Newcastle will have the edge on them, but not by any great stretch. I don't think it's going to be another 4-0 like against Palace last weekend, but I do think they'll end up winning out.
Yeah, I've gone similar. I've gone 3-1 Newcastle. Same sort of reasons. I think they will have the quality. Obviously, Champions League might play a factor. Obviously, they'll play on Wednesday night, so perhaps a bit tough to get used to the 2 games a week. Bit of a thin squad, couple of injuries there. But I do think they will edge that one 3-1.
Yeah, and the games they're playing as well in midweek, they're tough. Big, energy-sapping, crowd-sapping games. They're not just playing, with all due respect, they're not just playing a Lazio, a Lyon, one of those sort of middle-tier to lower-tier European clubs. And even Len, to be fair, when you're away to Len, unbelievable atmosphere there. But those sort of middle tier, they're playing sort of your top hitters, and that's going to mentally wipe you out a little bit. But yeah, I think they'll end up coming through. Another team with European exploits, you've got Brighton against Fulham.
Yeah, Brighton, they're a very good team, but they're a bit up and down, aren't they?
No winning 3 for Brighton.
Yeah, they're a bit up and down. I do think I see this as the game they'll win. I think I've gone 3-0 Brighton. Fulham have looked quite poor for me recently. Obviously, lost 2-0 at Spurs the week just gone. They kind of lack a bit of oomph about them. Like when they go behind, I was saying that they came back against us and bloody drew 2-2.
But we're an anomaly.
Yeah, we just love to do shit like that.
What I've got written down, it's a mid-table team doing mid-table things. That's sort of how I feel about Fulham. I've gone 2-0 Brighton. I think they'll win it quite easy. I think Fulham are going to continue to do what we said the other week. They're going to beat teams in and around them. They're going to comfortably lose to teams that are above them, and they're just going to tick along, and they're going to finish somewhere between 14th and 9th, and they're going to be solid enough with that.
Yeah.
But nothing exciting about that Fulham team whatsoever.
Yeah.
Anything to add before we round up?
No, agree on that. Brighton will be hoping to obviously pick up a win after a few tough weeks, but they definitely got the quality to do it.
Yeah, 100%. So we'll dip in as always next week and see how those predictions get on. But before we round up for this half, Kiers, FPL.
Yeah, a bit of a gloat for me this week. Back up in top where I belong. Team name is League Toppers, and I've not really been following suit on that so far this season. So nice week, 76 points, jumped back in. Still, it's all very tight in our mini league. So I'm 10 points ahead of second, 13 points ahead of third, and obviously 33 ahead of yourself, which sounds like more than it is because you only need one good week, and you're right back in it. So yeah, good week. I was happy with that. Good week for me.
Yeah, good week. A solid week for me after some very, very poor weeks. 70 points, which I'll definitely take after a real dour run of games, especially after a near disaster, waking up on Saturday after the deadline had hit, late on Saturday morning after the deadline had hit, and realising I hadn't done my team yet. Had me in fear for the weekend, but ended up actually doing me a favour. I don't know if I would have got that many points had I have binned off some of the players. Douglas Luiz, absolute saviour with a 15-point haul. Visser bringing me an 8. Romero bringing me an 8. And then got Haaland as captain getting a little points haul as well. Akanji with a -1 doing me an absolute mischief there. Midway through the halves in those 3 p.m. games, I had a clean sheet from Turner, had a clean sheet from Akanji, and then suddenly Luton come back in that game against Forest. Brighton get a goal against City. Akanji gets sent off. The fear. But this week, Kiers, we're finally going wild card. We're going all
long
out.
Awaited.
Ederson, gone. Estupinian, gone. Akanji, gone. Disassi, gone. Luis Diaz, gone. Marcus Rashford, happy birthday, but goodbye. You're gone.
Oh, ruthless. Any hints on who you're bringing in?
So, at the moment, Areola's in goal.
Okay.
Pau Torres is in. I did have Gahey, but then I've now might be changing that to Simicas because I know that Robertson's out. So they're both 4.5 million. So I'm tossing back up at the minute Simicas is in, but I might switch that background. I'm really not sure there. Dan Burn is in. I've brought in Mo Salah. My midfield, I've got Mo Salah, Maddison, Saka, and then just a cheap McTominay thrown in there as well. I've taken out Visser and brought in Archer because then that gets me Watkins. Because I did have Isak, and then in midweek he got injured in the Champions League game. So he was brought back in. He was shipped straight back out. The one I'm sort of flicking with at the minute is downgrading Maddison, and then that would allow me to bring in Callum Wilson as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's
definitely get a run of games now with Isak being up.
That's a tightrope walk I'm on at the moment, but Ferguson also out as well. It's big changes.
Big changes.
At Lovey's, actually.
Big changes. I've made a couple of transfers this week myself.
What you got for me?
So I got rid of my 2 Newcastle boys. Well, I've got Trippier as well, but I got rid of Isak, obviously, picking up injury. And I had Elliot Anderson as well, who's also now flagging up as injured. So it was a no-brainer, really. Yeah. Get rid of the players out that are injured. And I brought in Martinelli. We've got quite a nice run of games now. I think Martinelli's hitting a bit of form. I think he's like a bit annoyed that he was out injured. He's got that fire in him that he always has. Obviously, goal against City when he kind of came back in off the bench there, and obviously goal in the Champions League in midweek. And I brought in Osula as well up top, which was purely for money. He was the only 4.3 million striker I could see on there. So that was purely to accommodate Martinelli coming in. I
don't feel like I realised that you had Diaz, and I also didn't realise you didn't have Saka.
Yeah, I didn't, and I did think about bringing Saka in, but just because he's about 0.8 million more than Martinelli, it just wasn't really feasible without me kind of majorly changing my team. So I thought the no-brainers, get the injured players out. Anderson was only like a 4.5 million player anyway, so he never really starts for me. So having a kind of null player that's never going to play, it doesn't really bother me too much. Just a quick mention on Gahey. I feel like I finally gave in and played him. And then, as anticipated, 0 points for him last week. 4-0 loss at Newcastle, and obviously 4 goals conceded, 0 points.
Yeah, I have 0.6 to play with, so I might also get rid of him or Simicas and bring in Anderson for Palace, but I'm not sure. But we'll see how the FPL teams go on, as we'll always check in next week. So let's finish for part 1, and in part 2, we have a little Halloween special of a couple of classic podcast games. So up next, as it is a Halloween special of the Scythe Netting podcast. Scythe Netting podcast? What do we land on? Scythe? Scythe?
Well, something like that.
Big sword.
Big sword.
Big curvy sword.
Podcast.
Doesn't scan as well, but we can actually say that one.
Stick to, well, as we've seen previous weeks, there's not a lot I can pronounce.
The Dominic Szoboszlai podcast.
So we'll just stick to the basic vocab.
So as it's a Halloween special anyway, we've got a little couple of Halloween games. The first of all is the return of Connor's big quiz, but especially Kieran, it's Connor versus Kieran's big quiz. So this week, myself and Kieran have 5 Halloween-based related, generally associated in some way, shape or form questions, and we'll go back and forth answering them. Either it's whoever gets the most out of 5, or if we both get the same amount correct, we have a little sudden death tiebreaker situation.
Exciting stuff. I had to really switch on the brain this week to think of some quiz questions. Usually, just hand it over to yourself, and just work away.
You actually have to do some
I
work
had to
for
do
this
some
week.
work this week. It's disgraceful. It's a disgrace.
I'll never do it again.
I will not be back. But yeah.
The big thing though, Kears, it's the road to Christmas, where whoever's got the least amount of points on our road to Christmas tally on our Christmas drinks episode will be doing a forfeit. I'm currently 2-0 down, so we've got to get some points on the board because nothing else is bloody helping me at the minute. Predictions, FPL, other games, so we need to go back to my bread and butter of a quiz on the podcast.
You are what I believe is known as in the mud currently.
I am currently mudded, but we're worming our way out. So, Kears, do you want to go first?
I'll go first. Why not? Let's make a start. So, the first question I've got for your good self.
Hit me.
So, Arsenal played the day before Halloween last year at home to Nottingham Forest. What was the score?
Loosely associated with
It's
Halloween.
close enough.
The day before.
I was going to troll back and go, the last game I could find we played on Halloween, but I thought it's going to be tough. I thought, recency bias, you might have a better chance last year.
I wonder what time that game was at. I'm trying to.
Oh, I've not gone into that level of detail. I hope your questions do not specify kickoff.
No, I'm just thinking of what time it would have been for me because if it was a late game.
Oh, the excuses are coming. I was in Australia. I couldn't watch it. It was too early in the morning. Cry me a river. Come
on. It was a low-scoring game. I feel like that. I'm gonna say 2-1. To Arsenal.
2-1 Arsenal. Low-scoring game. It was not. It was 5-0 Arsenal.
Oh, fuck it. I have zero recollection of that game.
To be honest, neither did I. Which is partly why I picked the question. We don't tend to win games. I think it's something we've discussed previously. We don't tend to hammer teams, even the so-called smaller teams. So, yeah, an unusual one, but there you go.
There we go. Well, that's not gone off to a great start.
Not an easy question by any means.
So my first two questions, we say loosely based. So my first question is around tricks, and my second question is around tricks.
Oh, very nice.
So
I like what you've done there.
Tricks-based question: which club has the most Premier League hat tricks?
Oh, what, all time? Or
all in the Premier League era.
In the Premier League era. Which club has the most hat tricks? Oh, that's tough.
Thank you.
That's tough. Well, logically, I'd think it would be the traditional bigger six clubs. Because of City only really emerging more recent years, I'm going to rule them out. Chelsea probably as well. When was the Prem starting? In 93? 92. Okay, 92. So Chelsea, I think, only really, although saying that, that's still 20 years worth of football. I'm going to go for between United, Arsenal, Liverpool.
Ooh, it's a big choice.
I'm going to choose one of those clubs, I think.
What's he going to go with? I have got the top 5 listed here.
Okay.
As I know you'll be fascinated by that.
For me, it's between those three. I'm going to try and kick bias out the window and maybe go with Arsenal. Who scores? United were known for a bit of Fergie time at scraping results, but I'm trying to think who their big goal scorers obviously had Rooney, Ronaldo, but
you think of league winners.
I'm gonna go United.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Man United.
So I'll give you the top 5 here, kids, to really build some suspense.
Ooh.
Okay, so in 5th with 29 hat tricks, it's Tottenham.
Ooh.
In 4th with 36, it is Man United. So
sake.
that tension's been blown very quickly. In 3rd with 38 is Man City. In 2nd with 40 is Arsenal. 1st with 42 is Liverpool.
Fuck's sake. It was a 50-50 toss-up and I've fucked it. I'm surprised at City,
Yeah.
Like, they've only really, last, 10 years?
But I think some of the games they've had in that time, I think Aguero...
Haaland's probably propped him right up.
Well, I was going to say, I think Aguero alone had 12.
Yeah. Well, Haaland alone was 5 last season?
Ridiculous.
Which is ridiculous. And he's already had 1 this season as well, I think.
That's disgraceful.
I know. Anyway, there you go.
There you go. Well,
not great.
I've staved him off for round 1. So round 2, Kiers, what you got for me?
Second question. Another Arsenal-based one, but I do promise after this it goes a bit more general football because I didn't want to go all Arsenal. Arguably Arsenal's scariest, I've put brackets worst player here, and someone that might feature in a conversation shortly. In recent years, Shkodran Mustafi. Skodran?
I'd say Shkodran, but I'm not sure.
Well, that would tie into Halloween theme if he's Shkodran. So we'll go Mustafi anyway.
The pronunciations on this pod so far
brilliant.
in the second half hasn't been fantastic, but we move. Professional pod.
So, Arsenal's scariest brackets worst player, arguably, in recent years, Mustafi made how many Premier League appearances whilst with the club?
Fucking hell!
No, hold up. I've been nice. If you get within 10, it's a correct answer. Okay, Premier League, so just Premier League appearances.
I'm trying to think how long he was with.
It is a tough one, but I've stipulated within 10 to give you a chance. So just Premier League appearances.
Okay, this isn't my answer, but my immediate gut instinct is in the 50s. I'm going to try and rationalise it in my head.
Have a think it through.
So you think, in a season it's 38 games, so it's going to be a lot more than 50. In a season got 38 games. I reckon he was a starter for 2-3 seasons. Couple of years at least, I'd say. I'm going to go around... I'm going to hedge my bets.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go on a round number, because that gives me basically a 20 gap.
Yeah.
I'm either thinking 70 or 80. I don't think he's past 100, and that could be where I'm going wrong. That could be my undoing. But I don't feel like he's played 100 games. So I'm going to say 80.
Final answer, 80?
Yeah, but I'm not confident.
It's 151.
Which
really did surprise me as well.
I really didn't think he played 100 games.
He pretty much started every game for like 3 seasons. I can't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, I didn't think he was with us that long either. So we really did. We really were in the
suffered. Christ.
We suffered. Maybe we were, you were underestimating our suffering.
When we do our bracket later on, kids, those stats are going to be bloody playing a factor on his contention.
How much pain we endured.
Oh my God.
Yeah. As we say, he could feature in slightly later conversation, but yeah, another tough one. A
top seed in the bracket.
Yes. So
2 Arsenal-based questions, and I've embarrassed myself. So that's a good start.
Not easy ones though. We'll give you some.
Talking of Arsenal, on the treat, in 2012, you and me, Kieran, you and I, we were treated.
I like what you've done here.
To an Arsenal 7-3 victory over Newcastle, which we were both at.
Yes.
Hence being treated.
Yeah.
Name any of the scorers for Arsenal that day.
I know Demba Ba scored for Newcastle.
He did as well.
So I just need to name one scorer.
One scorer for Arsenal.
Theo Walcott.
Yes, he scored 3.
He did.
He scored a hat-trick.
I remember the goal where he fell over and got back up. Oh, I see what you did there. And then he fell over and dribbled round a couple and dinked Tim Krul in goal off, I believe it was.
Walcott. Thing is with Walcott, it was a weird one. He's sort of, to be fair, there's a little group of players like that. I'd probably put Wilshere in that group. Maybe Ramsey, but he more had a season to go alongside it. Where during their time at Arsenal, they had these little bursts of like 5 to 10 games where they were unplayable. And I don't know if it's because we watched Arsenal the most and the most focused on that. But it seems like we are the club where it has those sort of short-term bursts of unreal. Lacazette had a couple of those.
Yes, the purple patch players.
Kieran John, that is beautiful. Purple patch, that could be a pod title right there. You've smashed it there. Purple patch players
side could be coming our way soon. Yeah. But yeah, I know what you mean. They just never really had the glimpses, but they never
had a full season to go alongside it.
Yeah.
But they had like these little runs, these little purple patches, as you say, of like 5 to 10 games of just unbelievable performances.
Yeah.
Like Abu Diaby when he wasn't injured. 1 or 2 games.
Small pool there. Right, into round 3 we go then. And
it's not looking good, Biff.
I said no more Arsenal, but it's not really about Arsenal, but it's a guy who's managed Arsenal before. So Count Dracula himself,
Bruce
Unai
Rioch.
Emery. Count Dracula himself, Unai Emery, has
That is loose.
That is
That is loose. That is shocking. That is shocking behaviour.
loose. Me and loose go together, I tell you. So, Count Dracula himself, Unai Emery, has managed Aston Villa, Lorca Deportiva, Almira, Valencia, Spartak Moscow. I didn't realise he managed so many clubs till such as up. Sevilla, Arsenal, Villarreal, and which other club? And the clue is they are a top 5 leagues. Well, the so-called.
Can you say
top
that again?
5. So Unai Emery has managed.
Just say the clubs.
Villa, Lorca Deportiva, Almira, Valencia, Spartak Moscow, Sevilla, Arsenal, Villarreal, and which other club?
PSG.
Correct. Well done.
I was very rude to you. Clubs.
Keep going. What I thought might have thrown you off is the number of clubs that was there.
There's
Because
a lot in there, isn't there?
he's known for managing PSG, but I thought the kind of
swerve it.
amount could throw you off. But well done. Good point there. Good point. 1-1 then. 1-1.
1-0. Okay, next up. This is a double.
Oh.
In terms of relation, which Man United goal scorer
You said mine,
was born on Halloween 1990? Okay. See, at least I linked it back round and not just gone for a pun or he looks like a vampire.
Man United goal scorer born in 97, so he'd be 26.
My age.
Great
age. Which is very depressing.
26, Man United goal scorer.
Right, actually,
so
he's
still be playing.
As the famous saying goes, he's 25 till he's 26.
He's 25. Well, United don't really have many goal scorers currently. I'm gonna go. I think it's got to be Marcus Rashford, isn't it?
It is indeed. When you said current goal scorers, I thought you were going to go off a different track, but because he's not exactly a current goal scorer.
Yeah, true.
But yes.
Talking about purple patch players.
Yeah, indeed. Maybe not talking, but we'll be talking around predictions as we go on the season. Not one of my best. Marcus Rashford, 25 plus.
Well, I'd Martinelli, I think, to be second top scorer in the league.
And you had
scored 1 league goal.
You had Timber to replace Zinchenko, and then he got injured before the season could even start.
If he was fit, he would have done.
Thing is, like, replaces Zinchenko. If you'd have said Tomiyasu, you would have
just Zinchenko to get replaced. Bottom line. That's it. Right.
So it's 2-1. Going on to the 4th round of questioning.
Slight leader. Right. So this one, I went down scary in terms of, violent game. So next up, we've got the game with joint most red cards in English League history came in 1997 in a game between Chesterfield and Plymouth Argyle. How many red cards were there? And interestingly, when I searched this up, 2 games in 1997 both had the same amount of red cards, and they were both joint. Hence why I said joint top in terms of red cards for English League game.
First of all, I don't like this question.
You're welcome. I was going to go like any game, but you get the likes of like Boca Juniors v River Plate, and there's like every single player and the bench gets sent off as well.
Well, the most you can have is 4, and then it gets called off.
4 for a single team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it can't be more than 8. We'll go 6.
Final answer 6.
Fuck it, why not?
It was 5.
Oh no,
5.
I had it. It was on me too. You've asked me to basically pick a number between 1 and 7 there.
Yeah.
And I realise I've left my questions open there. So if you'd have had a little peek over,
I'm an honest man. Honestly.
Okay, so not going well for me. I can taste the vinegar spiced Baileys at the moment.
Oh, I'm not putting anything non-alcoholic in. I'll just find the most rancid alcoholic drink I can find and mix it.
I'm gonna. Well, it's been a pleasure to do the podcast. 2023 has been a good year. We've got a timeline now on the end.
All good things come.
Okay, so I want all 3 of these.
Oh,
okay.
He's getting a bit.
Which classic Halloween villains share a name with Limburg, Dawson, and Punchin? And I'd like first and last names of the villains. Which Halloween villains share a name with Limburg, Dawson, and Punchin?
So Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, that's one. Freddy Limburg.
I don't really know like Halloween films and stuff.
They're 3 of the most famous film characters, regardless of of it being Halloween, for the most famous film characters, the most famous scary movie characters.
Freddy Krueger, you got Michael Dawson.
Yeah.
Mike Myers?
Mike Myers is correct from Halloween.
And then Jason Puncham. I don't know. Jason. Oh, I don't think I'm going to get this because that doesn't ring a bell. The other two, it was sort of an instant thing. Give me a little think.
Oh, okay, I thought you were going to say a clue. Absolutely not.
Jason. I don't think I'm going to get this.
It is Jason Puncham, former Crystal Palace player.
Jason.
So you got Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street, Mike Myers from Halloween, from Michael Dawson. Jason Puncham.
I don't think I'm going to get this because there's nothing sparking in my brain. I'm gonna have to pass on it.
Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th.
I wouldn't have got that. I know the name of the film rings a bell, but not the name, sadly.
Yeah.
Horror films not my forte. Good question though. Good question.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm not big on the old horror scary films either. I don't.
I'm a bit of a wimp when it comes to the old scary films.
When it comes to like your Halloween films, I do like a little cartoon, like a family number. A bit like when it comes around to Christmas. Like those kind of vibes.
More my vibe.
What is your go-to Halloween film or episode? Have you got one that like every year you might
usually it's a film that kind of represents the transition from Halloween to Christmas, and it's Nightmare Before Christmas. And I watched it the other day as well, actually. Yeah. Good little film.
Bangers in that film.
Yeah, good film. And then you got your other sort of cartoony family ones as well.
Haunted Mansion, which there's now 3 different versions of. There was a Muppets version though, so that's immediately
that takes
the elite one.
Prime. I'm sure when we go to our Christmas episode, we'll be discussing certain Christmas films, which may or may not had a
great memories. So yeah, round 5 here, Kiz. Round number 5 here, Kiz. The final question is 2-2.
It's 2-1, I believe, to me.
Is it 2-1?
It's 2-1 to me.
Oh, it's 2-1.
You can pull back a draw, but he's trying to add points on it. It's there for all to see. We've got that live. Connor trying to sneak. I quite like this question.
Well, let's find out.
Kasper Schmeichel, the ex-Leicester City goalkeeper who shares his name with a well-known friendly ghost.
He does indeed.
Joined which French team after leaving Leicester?
Oh, do you know what's really annoying? It's in my head.
In your head.
Because I nearly did a question based around Kasper Schmeichel as well.
Well, you should know it then. He's even researched it before the pod.
Is it Ren?
Final answer?
Yeah.
It's not.
Oh!
It was Nice.
Oh, fuck's sake.
And that's not nice for you.
It's not nice at all. That's really annoying me. I can't lie to you, because I was literally looking at it earlier when I was doing my own questions. That's really annoyed me.
Well,
what can you do?
It's another defeat. We'll do the next question nonetheless. But
I will say it's a Premier League based poll, and you've asked a question about a French football team. But I digress.
Come off it. He was most well known for playing in the Premier League winning Leicester side.
Where does he play now?
Well, he actually plays for Anderlecht, which weirdly enough.
Are they in League 2?
Yes. Well-known League 2 ballers.
Leyton Orient, Anderlecht away.
Weirdly, though, Schmeichel was only at Nice for a season, which I found quite weird when I looked into this question.
So he's not even there now? What am I talking about?
He's not. So yeah, there you go.
Who knows where I got Ren from? But I was looking at him earlier because I was thinking the same lines as you with the old Kasper.
I had to throw a Kasper in.
Yeah. So my final question means nothing now, but my final question: on Halloween 2021, Aston Villa hosted West Ham. Ooh. Which team won, or was it a draw?
Oh, that's a tough question. 2021, West Ham were probably, arguably, the better side than Villa. Villa, I believe, were more. That could be completely wrong, but from memory, West Ham would have qualified for Europe that season. But then Villa, West Ham. I'm trying to think. Track record. You know, I'm going to go West Ham. West Ham win.
And you'd be correct. West Ham won that game 4-1.
Oh, bit of a hammer in there. Did Villa beat West Ham by that scoreline
recently? Yes,
just
it did
weekend
indeed.
Just gone.
It did.
There you go. Yeah, well, I'll take that. 3-1 win on the day and a 3-0 win, is that now?
3-0.
Overall?
Yeah.
Got a bit of catching up to do here, boy. Otherwise, this Christmas episode's not going to be playing out too nicely for you.
It's not looking good, Brev.
It's really not. What, as a wise man once said.
We'll move on that frustrating, depressing, annoying moment for me there. And we'll get into this week's special bracket, this Halloween-based bracket. We've gone all in on the Halloween this week, kids.
Ooh, spooky. Shivers down the spines, it.
Scariest fucking...
Scariest pod going.
Ooh, spooky. Thanks, kids.
Boo.
So, on this week's bracket, we are talking about the scariest players. So, the criteria for this sort of a mix of if you see these players on your team's team sheet, you are terrified of them, or maybe it's them on the opposing team's team sheet and you're scared against playing them, or they're just your basic hard men, scary players, and in one case, they're going to give you a little nibble. That's the sort of criteria we were thinking. So, my picks, and we'll go in seeding order. We have Roy Keane, Diego Costa, Pepe, and Manuel Almunia. And Kiz, your picks?
So, in order, I had Oliver Kahn as my first pick. I had, depending on how we decided to pronounce this first name, we got Mustafi. In number 2, I had Carlos Tevez as my third and Luis Suarez as number 4.
We'll start with the first game and then we'll get into reasonings, I think.
Yeah.
So the first game is my number 1 seed in Roy Keane and your number 4 seed in Luis Suarez. So Roy Keane, quite self-explanatory, where just the grumpy Irishman. He does, like, both me and Kieran have Irish parents, and he is basically my dad. So I have a lot of time for Roy Keane. But on the basic, he is like a very scary footballer to come up against. You've got the old stuff in the tunnel with Vieira. You've got him trying to incapacitate Haaland's dad.
Yeah.
Alf, basically his whole
persona
when he was playing football, and even now, to be fair, is that he is the hard man to come up against. So he's got to go on this list, and he's got to be near the top of it.
I nearly went from myself. A good choice. My pick then against Roy Keane was Luis Suarez. So it was quite of a kind of multiple reasons for Suarez. Obviously, he's a great player, so scary in terms of coming up against. But the chomp has to factor in there. And he's also a bit scary looking as well. Like, he looks a bit ratty.
He does.
So,
and it's Halloween. He really, with the old vampire behaviour, he really fits into the theme.
He does. So it's kind of a three-pronged approach here for Suarez. So I think the main reasoning was the chomp, to be honest, because I wanted to go outside of just, he's a good player, he's a bit scary to play against. I thought, trying to think back to specific incidents, and obviously the bite on Chiellini was
under Ivanovic.
Oh, and Ivanovic, of course, yeah.
Double bite. Yeah.
Double reason there.
I was actually surprised he was your bottom seeded player. I would have had him seeded quite high.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? I'll go into my reasons for Tevez, but it's looks alone for Tevez because he's an ugly fucker, isn't he? So and there's reasons for the other two as well. But yeah, so perhaps harshly at number 4, but
yeah, a big contest. It's a big matchup. It's almost a Rugby World Cup level mistake in the draw here.
Quarterfinals, the battle of the heavyweight. It's got an Ireland New Zealand vibe.
It does.
Roy Keane's your classic hard man, and as you said, now he does a lot of stuff in the media, punditry, and he's still that kind of standoffish.
Yeah,
you wouldn't want to meet him down a dark alley.
Well, you always see the things, don't you, about people approaching him for pictures and him basically telling them to piss off. But I do have a real soft spot for Roy Keane, and considering that sort of history with Roy Keane and Arsenal and stuff, I shouldn't like Roy Keane as much as I do. Yeah. But he has a warm place in my heart. And Micah Richards, like how an old Irish man with like their grandkid or something, and you're like, oh, suddenly they're not that mean and gruff anymore. Micah Richards is like Roy Keane's grandchild,
someone to warm the heart.
Which I do think steps him down in the scary list a bit more.
I think I definitely agree with the pick, but I think Roy Keane sometimes has that kind of, don't know the way to put it, but that kind of stereotypical hard man persona.
Classic.
Maybe sometimes it's built up a bit more. I know. Back in the day, he was feels
a bit put on.
It does a bit, because when you look at Vieira. I think Roy Keane was like 5'11". Like in terms of like pure presence, like Vieira, you'd say Vieira would be, but then just the death glare of a Roy Keane puts him up there. But yeah, I agree with the pick. Suarez, slightly different reasoning. You've obviously got Scary to play against. Obviously, he was an unbelievable player on his day. I remember, I think it was the nutmeg on David Luiz in that Champions League game, or the flick over someone's head as well, Bayern. Unbelievable player, and the 2 bites. But I'm probably leaning towards Roy Keane slightly myself on this one.
Weirdly, I'm leaning the other way.
Okay. Like, I think there's arguments for both.
Yeah, there's definitely arguments for both. I think Suarez, to be fair, you say about Suarez being a great player. Roy Keane, coming up against Roy Keane in the midfield, like basically shut down teams. Long day. I think because of the Roy Keane in the middle, and you see that with players a lot now, don't you, where they just become a pundit and their footballing ability is almost lost because of their pundit persona. Yeah. And Roy Keane is a massive one for that because, like, when and I only sort of saw the tail end, or remember the tail end of his career, sort of 2004 to when did he retire? I want to say 2007?
Yeah.
Around that mid-2000s, I'd say. And, like, even then, like, having him in your midfield is basically a lock. Yeah. A lot. Like, there's a reason that Man United team won, and he was a massive part of that. Yeah. So that alongside his hard man persona, but Suarez, alongside being an unbelievable player, he was fucking biting folks. Like,
it's hard to argue.
Walking onto a field, you're either going to have Roy Keane trying to snap your leg, or Suarez turn into prime Robert Pattinson. Like,
yeah, what would you rather? I think, as you said, with the Halloween theme, maybe we've got to go Suarez.
I think we've landed on Suarez here.
We'll go Suarez.
Suarez going ahead.
Slight upset, perhaps, in the first one.
Well, it's bottom seed against top seed there, so I'd say there's a little surprise, a little upset. But I'm happy. I'm happy to go along with it. Do you want to set us up on our next bracket there, Kiers?
Yes. So next up we have Diego Costa against Carlos Tevez.
2 very similar picks.
This kind of South American.
Yeah, the South American.
Bullish is the way I think I'd describe it. Yeah. Thoughts for your reasoning for Diego Costa then?
It was like coming up against a prime Pablo Escobar, wasn't it? Like, gruff, almost definitely dealing behind the changing rooms, would punch folks just for the crack, and also he always scored against us.
The sort of guy that would probably like drag his bollocks across your face at a sleepover. That's the vibes. That's the vibes he gives me. You know what I mean? Like, you'd wake up and Big Diego stood over you, your lifeless body with just a big Brazilian bollock in your face. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
We've all been there.
We know the type. When you've been at a sleepover, you got Big Diego there. Not one you want to invite to the slumber party, I've got to say. Yeah, Big Diego. He's one of those players that you love him if he's on your team, but you hate. He's one of those proper shithouse players that, yeah, you love him when he plays for your club, but you hate him if he doesn't, and you hate him at a sleepover as well.
Yeah, do you want to talk us through Tevez there, kid?
Hard to follow up on that. Carlos Tevez, just take a look at him. That's all I'm going to say. If we had picture prompts on screen, I would be pulling up a lovely photo of Tevez. He just looks like the Tasmanian devil. He just looks like a scary man.
Okay, I'm back.
If we're back in the room. He's an ugly bastard, really, is the bottom line. That was the main reasoning. Again, you could go down, he's a good player. He was a bit of a rough player to play against. Yeah. He had a nasty streak to him. But the main reasoning, just have a look at him.
He looks terrifying, but he wasn't as rough and tumble as a Diego Costa. Like, Diego Costa was very much like a dark artsy striker as well. He'd proper go little gouge of the eyes.
Yeah. Bollock on the face.
We all remember where we were when he was jumping up for a header against us when he rubbed his bollocks on Mertesacker's face. We all saw it.
We saw it.
The fact that no one mentioned it is an absolute disgrace. Oh. But for that reason, and his sleepover shenanigans.
You can't tell me after holding pocket in that FA Cup final he did not visit.
What a statement!
Little bollocks through the letterbox sort of situation going on there. Anyway, aside from
whether or not this stays in the pod,
Oh, it's got to. It'd be a travesty if it doesn't. Aside from Diego Costa and his cojones, what are we saying, Nick?
I think Costa's through there.
I think Costa.
I think the ball bag merchant is through.
It has to. He has to really. Yeah, as you say, that typical fan's favourite if he plays for your team.
Yeah,
you hate him if he doesn't. Master of the dark arts and just a nasty guy.
Well, that sets up a massive semi-final number one here, kids. We've got Suarez, the biter, against Costa, the ball bag.
If that's not his new nickname going forward, is he retired now?
I think he might.
I think he might be.
You know, he plays for. Does he still play for Wolves?
Of course, he was at Wolves last season, wasn't he?
No, he plays for Campeonato Brasileiro. No, that's a lie. That's the league. He plays for Botafogo. In Brazil.
Yeah, okay.
There you go. So he's still knocking on. He was obviously at Wolves last season.
Well, any Botafogo fans want to dial in? I hope that's the new nickname for him up top.
Ballbag Botafogo.
Oh, apologies to any going back to earlier pods when the apologies list came out. I think Diego Costa and Botafogo will both now be getting an apology.
Yeah, we have. This is almost slander, isn't it?
It's getting around. Back to the semi, huge semi.
Back to the massive semi we've got staring right in front of us, almost casting a shadow across us right now. The actual thing's Diego, like he was actually just a brute of a striker. Like Chelsea fans loved him because he was an absolute bastard.
Yeah.
And he scored goals.
Not want to play
against
him.
Suarez, like alongside his shithousery, bloody Ghana World Cup.
Of course, I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
And then he bite folks. Like that's the Suarez argument. His old battle through here. I think I'm leaning. I think I've gone against both of me picks where Suarez is concerned. He was, to be fair, he was on my shortlist, and then you picked him.
Yeah.
I'm going Suarez here, Kiz.
I'm leaning Suarez as well.
Suarez is in the final.
Congratulations, Chewy Suarez himself.
Okay. Now we go to the other side of the bracket. We've got a battle of goalkeepers here. And
they got the GK.
You've gone for Oliver Kahn here, Kiz. I didn't think you would have had much of a memory of Oliver Kahn, especially his sort of scary manners.
I guess it's more when you think back, and it's probably more social media type hype around it. But he is the scary goalkeeper, isn't he? When you think back, like I was thinking back, Lehmann was obviously of that kind of.
He was a close one for me. He nearly made my list.
He was that kind of, but I think Khan was the blueprint for mad keepers, and also like I think there's a clip of him literally strangling a striker.
Yeah.
Which I mean that speaks for itself, really.
And a fantastic goalkeeper.
Oh, fantastic keeper! We're talking scary to come up against. He was present.
Yeah. We don't want to drop that in too much, but he was a fantastic goalkeeper. And considering the goalkeepers going up against, I think it does need to be talked how good Oliver Kahn was, because he's going up against a man that's still. The only people that won't agree with me here is Watford fans because of that playoff semi-final. But for everyone else, especially Arsenal fans, Manuel Almunia.
Fucking hell.
Terrible.
Just the name alone. I've literally dropped my head as that name was mentioned. And I think we've spoke about him on the pod before.
I think he has had a few mentions.
We've said friend of the pod before. I think he'd be foe of the pod, Almunia.
He's definitely
been all our shitter brackets and five-a-sides.
So what way do you want to lean here, kids? Do you want to go for scary in terms of persona and his build, or do you want to go scary as in, oh shit, we've got Almunia in goal, I'm terrified of what's about to happen?
Well, I think we've not really gone down that path yet, so maybe we need to mix it up a bit. I think out of fear of having to just think about Almunia for another round, which would slightly deter me, I'm happy to go Almunia. Obviously, Khan was he was a scary bastard, but Almunia, for the years of scariness I've had with him being in our net, I think Almunia takes it.
So talking of scary Arsenal players at the back, up next we have Shukran Mustafi and Pepe. So Pepe, just an absolute bollocks of a player. And not a bollocks in terms of the Diego Costa kind, but bollocks in terms of just pure dark arts distilled into a footballer.
Yeah.
Like, what more can you say about Pepe? Loves a red card, also a good defender. What a combination.
Yeah. We said about Costa, master of the dark arts, but Pepe is the master.
100%.
And I think longevity as well. Like Pepe, you go back years with Real, and then even recent years with Porto in the Champions League. He's still going. He's shown no signs of letting up with his shithousery, which you love to see. And then obviously on the other foot, you got Mustafi, who, going back to obviously early conversation, 151 Prem appearances.
Shocking.
And we can definitely think of a good few times where he's been the sole reason for some real painful memories for us. Some of those massive defeats we've had, which seems a reoccurring theme on the pod lately, talking about Arsenal's hammerings in recent years against big teams, in that Arsenal team that were taking batterings. So, yeah, it's a tough one. It's another one, what path we go down, I think.
He's only 31, Mustafi. I didn't realise.
Really?
Yeah.
Is he still playing?
Yeah.
Who's he with now?
I'll try not to say the name of a league and actually say the name of a club.
Get the correct name this time.
Oh, I don't know. My research machine isn't working, so I can't say I care enough about Mustafi to find out. Whoever he's playing for, I do apologise.
Poor fan
You have my
base.
sympathies. Well, we've already gone with one poor Arsenal player. I don't feel like we need...
We don't want to think about that in the semi. I was leaning towards Pepe anyway, to be honest. He is as we say, the master of the dark arts, really. I'm happy we go Pepe. Big semi then. Big
semi. So we've gone the two opposite ends of scary. We've got Almunia, who the epitome of his scary time at Arsenal was watching him have to, I am sorry for mentioning this, watch him have to walk on to the Champions League final.
Oh, how could you?
After Lehmann got sent off and he needs to walk on the pitch and it all just goes wrong.
I might just sit in silence now for the last bit.
I think the rest of the pod should just be...
Yeah.
Oh, dear. And then Pepe, to go back to him, like, to still be doing what he's doing at 40 years of age is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And to still be such a shithouse
it's impressive.
At the grown age of 40 is impressive. And I think a Pepe Suarez final really distills the scary theme down to a...
It's only right, I think. And players that had many a good battle over the years between Real and Barca.
Yeah,
so I'm sure there was some real shithousery going on in those games. This is a tough one. Pepe v Suarez in the final.
What's your gut tell you? We'll go with that.
Weirdly, my gut's going Suarez.
Same.
Because it's not just a bit of shithousery, it's actual chomping people.
Yeah. That's what's got him
hated by a whole nation as well. I didn't even factor that in originally.
Couple of nations, but especially Ghana.
Like, I think Ghana fans out there will thank us for putting him as the scariest, although they'll have to think about him.
Yeah. He could also win a villains bracket, which could be another one we do.
Yeah.
He'd definitely be on there for that heathenous behaviour. But congratulations, Luis Suarez. You are our scariest player of all time. Kieran, thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much. A pleasure as always.
Mostly a pleasure. Another loss on the sheet, which is never ideal. But a great bracket there. Hope everyone has a cracking Halloween, and we'll see you all next week.
Stay spooky.
My bed's on fire.